went over is also now with Deuteronomy 28 and 68. The hard bondage, being evil and treated, prophecies. Now let's look at some of the parallels of Joseph and how he was sold to the Ishmaelites, so-called Arabs, to the Egyptians as a slave. He was sold by the Ishmaelites to the Egyptians. All right? Give me Genesis 37, and let's start verse 27 and 28. Y'all all right? I know this should be Hebrew Israelite 101, but we still need to have these foundations so that we can be solid in what we teach. Because they're trying to get smarter. You know, they're really trying to combat against the Israelites. They want to see you fall. They want to trip you up. All right. Genesis 37, verse 27 and 28.
Genesis 37, 27. It says, come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites.
Let us do what?
Sell him to the Ishmaelites.
Let's think about that. What's the history of Israel? How about anybody heard of the sub-Saharan slave trade?
Yep.
You see this, how it's lining up with what Joseph went through and what was prophesied to Joseph by Jacob, whose name is Israel. Said, this is what's going to befall your people, man. And we see this. The same things that Joseph went through, we went through as Israel. All right? That's right. Read that part again.
It says, come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites.
Let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. Read on.
And let not our hand be upon him.
And let not our hand be upon him. Read on.
For he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. Verse 28. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen.
Men?
Merchantmen.
Come on.
And they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites.
And sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites. That's what happened to us.
Sold to your enemies.
You sold to your enemies. That's not, and that wasn't just Egyptians.
Right. Sold
to your enemies. You're going to see this paradigm wherever Israel was. Give me Genesis 39. Let's read 1 and 2.
Genesis 39 and 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites.
And bought him from an Ishmaelite. We were sold to whom? Who were the Israelites sold to? To the Portuguese. By whom? Who sold us to the Portuguese?
Damn Hamites.
The Hamites. Similar experience, man. Read. Verse 2.
Verse 2. And the Most High was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian.
The Egyptian. So this is the beginning of Israelite history. And we see it starting with Joseph. So when we look at Egypt, one of the things, the Hebrews were being sold into slavery by the Arabs for about 1,000 years, all right? Before the Europeans arrived. It was the Arabs that first sold Hebrews to the European Portuguese, all right? Figures on the Arab slave trade in Africa are hard to come by, but the historian, and this is a quote here by Paul Lovejoy, he estimates that some 9.85 million so-called Africans, Hebrews, were shipped out as slaves to Arabia, all right? And in small numbers to the Indian subcontinent. Lovejoy breaks his figures down as follows. Between 650 AD and 1600, an average of 5,000 slaves were shipped out by the Arabs. All right? This makes a rough total of 7.25 million. Then between 1600 and 1800, another 1.4 million Hebrews were shipped out by the Arabs. The 19th century represented the highest point of the Arabian slave trade, where up to 120,000 Israelites were shipped out every year. Look at that. Look at that. And we know how long that went on, longer than what took place with us here.
Right.
All right? The total figure of the 19th century alone was 1.2 million slaves to Arabia. According to Lovejoy, another 4.1 million so-called Africans were shipped across the Red Sea to the Persian Gulf and India. And that's why the Most High said we would be in all nations. We would be scattered everywhere.
I just want to bring out the fact that you just said that. Because I was reading, I seen a documentary on the Arabs and with slavery in maritime in Africa. And just recently, maybe about 1988, about 87, that they were still, they banned slavery in maritime. This is in Africa.
Look at that.
So slavery was still going on up until 1987.
That's that hard bondage still, and them curses still on Israel, on our people. Because they would know who we are better than we would.
That's just recent.
That's just recently. That's the curses that they will be on you for a sign and a wonder wherever you went. All right. That's why we don't make blanketed statements like the Africans are our people. All right. They can say what they want about the chart, but it's a reference point. It identifies the lands that we were sent to. All right. This trade also, with the notable exception of some Portuguese involvement in the area of Mozambique, and of the 18th and 19th century French exports to islands under their control in the Indian Ocean, was largely conducted by so-called what we call Arab Muslims, adds Duncan Clark. Arabs are continuing to buy and sell Israelites into slavery throughout the southern Sudan and other Arab countries. I mean, we see that. We see the Israelite identity in Sudan and in these places, in places like Mozambique. We went into the interior of Africa. We went into northern Africa. You know, we're everywhere. And we were sold everywhere. Yep. All right? So, Joseph's name was changed to Zaphanath-Paneah by Pharaoh. Now, you see the parallel? What happened when our names were changed too when we came over here? You see that? Joseph had the same similar experience in Egypt. All right? The changing of the Israelites' name was a common practice here in America. You know, this was frequently, you know, our last name ain't no damn Wilburn. You know, if that's my my last name, you know. Yeah, you got the last name Wilburn. You know, you don't even look like no damn Wilburn. Go ahead. I will burn this place when the Most High get an order. But go ahead. Bring it out.
This Daniel 1:6. It says, now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar.
The name of what?
The name of Belshazzar.
Now, when you even go back, what's heavy about this, they named us a lot of times after their pagan deities. That's what we would name, you know. Go ahead, after, in Egypt, read.
And to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego.
Look at that. Change their name. Those were not their Israelite names. First thing they did is when they brought us over, the identifying characteristics is to change our names. All right? Another parallel with Joseph. Joseph was thrown in jail because the slave master's wife wanted to sleep with him. And we see this, give me Genesis real quick, 39. I know we're familiar with this, but we need to start bringing these things out when we teach too. Because it is synonymous with what happened to us. How many times the so-called white woman called rape on the slave? You know, look what happened to Emmett Till for just looking at him.
Right.
So-called white woman. How often did that happen? Imagine if we had cell phones back during that time, during Jim Crow, or even before. You look, how many slaves that were in the cotton field wiping their brow, looked over at master's wife on the porch and got lynched? and you proud walking around with a pale-faced entity and an NBA contract. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the excuse they use in to take over women in North Carolina. And the white lady said that
Did somebody
Whistling or something, and that gave them an excuse to take the city over.
took the look?
To the whole city over.
It's been the ruin of many of our people, unjustly.
And they said that's the first time ever in history that a government takeover. They just took
A government takeover because a man looked at a dog.
Right.
They call it a reckless eyeball.
A reckless eyeball. Look at that.
They made it
Eyeball.
the law.
Yeah, that's
We make it a law.
Damn.
That was called the Wilmington Massacre.
Yeah, the Wilmington Massacre.
Look at that.
And when they took over, they just stormed to the city council and said, "Look, we taking over." And the guy, he was like a ex-military guy, Waddell. He was like, "Look, I'm gonna be the mayor. I'm taking over. We fired all the blacks. Everything. It's our city."
Was it the Democrats?
Yeah, Democrats, because the Republicans really was the ones that really started. The Democrats was the villains.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah.
They
We,
was in that Democrats-
many of us were Republicans.
Yeah, we
Go ahead.
In the mid-60s, they switched that, though, Democrats went Republican.
Right. Dealing with more morality and more things that some would consider coming out of the Bible. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and that's also like back in the day during slavery, they would always tell you, if you looked them in the eye, look down at me.
That's right.
But now the modern day for them to do that, when they nod down, when they see when they nod down.
That's
like
right.
that, they tell you the same thing, look down to me.
That's right. What you looking at, boy? I'm a grown man. Look what you looking at, boy. Put your head down. You couldn't even look them in the eye. You have to open the door for them and keep your head down. So Joseph was thrown in jail because of the slave master's wife wanted to sleep with. Bring that out. But he refused. And you got Negroes now, they won't refuse. They can't refuse. Go ahead.
Genesis 39:7. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me."
Nothing new under the sun. These wenches did that. These pale-faced entities did that. Women see old big John. Yeah, can't get right. Probably was, might have had some mental issues. She didn't care. Get him in here. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Life.
Go ahead.
Verse 8. But he refused.
He did what?
He refused.
He refused. Read on.
And said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand.
Yeah, so Joseph was like, I've been given, a certain level of authority, but even in that circumstance, he was still seen as a servant, as a slave. All right, go to verse 10.
Verse 10. And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her, or to be with her.
Well, because he knew that this was a death penalty.
Right.
Go to verse 12.
Verse 12. And she caught him by his garment.
Look, she grabbed him.
Dang.
Come on.
Thirsty.
Yeah. That's a thought to the 10th power. Go ahead.
Saying, Lie with me.
Come do what?
Lie with me.
Read on.
And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out.
And real talk sidebar, that's what a lot of brothers need to learn how to do too. Run, man.
Run.
Stop running to stuff. Run away from stuff. What's wrong with you, man?
That's right.
Giving in to your own, it's another topic for another day. But you gotta learn from Joseph, man. Some stuff you gotta run away from. All right, I'm just leave it like that. Let's go to verse 19.
Genesis 39:19. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled.
That his wrath was kindled. Go to verse 20.
Verse 20. And Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound. And he was there in the prison. But the Most High was with Joseph.
But the what?
But the Most High was with Joseph.
Come on.
And showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison.
And there were a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of Israelites, even in slavery, that the Most High did show favor to, you know, where they could have been lynched and killed, and they weren't. I mean, this was our paradigm. This is how we had to live, but we were subjugated just like Joseph was. That's my point. And like we brought out, whole towns got destroyed because a white woman falsely accused. Our men lost their lives because of being falsely accused by our enemy. And they want to sweep this under the rug. But we're not the people of the book. But we went through the same things that we went through in ancient Egypt and all the other places that we were carried away captive. So the children of Israel had population growth in Egypt. This is another synonymous thing that happened over here. And this may be the reason for the jab. It may be the reason for the jab. Because I'm hearing that you take the jab, it's making people sterile, it's causing women's cycle to be off. A lot of different things are happening as a result of the jab. And we just getting into it. So the children of Israel had a population growth in Egypt. The Egyptians were afraid of this growth because they feared that Israel would join one of their enemies and come against them. It's nothing new under the sun. Do you know America was always afraid that we were going to get with other people, their enemies? They were always afraid. We're going to bring a little bit of that out. Y'all all right? Y'all still with me? Or is this just basic? We don't need to go over this. We can do something else. All right, all praise. Give me Exodus 7 and 9. Let's go through 10. It's always good. You got to have this foundation because there are a lot of people teaching now and they're getting tripped up because they don't know the basics. And they be, you done took authority to be a teacher, and now you got to say, I got to look that up. Wait a second. You ain't in church, put your hand up like, I'll be back. No, man. If you out there, you need to know what you're talking about. And it needs to be solid. There's nothing wrong with solidifying your foundation. If we was as smart as we were, we wouldn't do the dumb stuff we do.
That's right.
Let's just keep it real. We wouldn't do the dumb stuff we do. If we was as smart, half as smart as we think we are, we wouldn't be doing dumb stuff. All right. Exodus 7, let's go 9 and 10.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 7, verse 9. When Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. Verse 10, and Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so as the Most High had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh...
That's 10?
That's 10.
Go to 12.
Verse 12, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents, but Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. Verse 13.
That's Exodus 7.
Exodus 7.
Come. So we see that the Egyptians were afraid and they feared that Israel would join. So even with one of the things with letting us go, they didn't want to let us go because that was one of the things that they feared. They feared retaliation. And this is why the so-called white man always wants to kind of sometimes give you a gift so he can destroy your mind to have the proper indignation. You know, like we'll stimulate them a little bit. Give them the stimulus a little bit. Let them buy something, man. Let them get a big TV and we can put on that nigga basketball association. Yeah, I think that's it. I see a bunch of Negroes. Yeah, they dribbling the basket. That'll distract them. Matter of fact, you know what? Yeah, twerking would be good. Let's put that on the forefront. TikTok. Let them TikTok themselves to death. And they won't be mad with us because they're entertaining. You see what I'm saying? These are all distractions. So we see that the population of the descendants of slaves, even over here in the Western Hemisphere, because if you remember, we know the scripture, they wanted to kill all the firstborn males in Egypt. They wanted them gone. They don't care about keeping our women. They have no problem with that. You notice in America, America is in so much support of the black woman as long as she's not attached to the so-called black man. Oh, man, you get all types of deals. That female apotheosis, we're gonna set you up. You run your household. We got women's this, women's empowerment. I used to remember when they used to bring the women's empowerment movement here, and the place be filled up with women. And you done gas all them women to go home and tell their husbands what to do, which is out of the order of the scriptures. You know, pulling men to church. Oh, I'm going to church if you don't go. There's a reason he didn't want to go to church. Church ain't right. Pastor looking at your wife. You see what I'm saying? The reason he don't want to go to church. Why I want to go to church while the pastor lusting over you? You know, he want to have a private deacon conference with you.
In his office.
Yeah, in his office with the door closed. You sitting out there looking like a simp. You know, waiting for him to tell you, man, you know, do what she say. Man, this is ridiculous. But again, this is what's been set up in America. Go ahead. Bring it out.
Jeremiah 31.
That's right.
How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man.
There you go. And our women, a lot of them, like Elder says, not those in here that are in this truth, but a lot of the women out there, they still feel that they have a stake in America because they're being supported. But when America falls, watch their countenance. Like when they can't get no help, when they can't get no assistance, when they don't have the courts mandating child support. And because they don't want to work it out with their husbands. Now, of course, we got some outright deadbeat Negroes. I mean, let's keep it real. But I'm just talking about what's being enforced and reinforced as it relates to the so-called black woman. She has been able to take authority over her relationships. She is now the masculine one. She is now dominant, you know. So we don't see that the humility that becometh Israelite women. And it's a problem because now we're being destroyed not only from without, but within. But these remember the Hebrew women refused. That goes back to, that's the same thing with Planned Parenthood. Ain't nothing new under the sun. The ancient abortion. They wanted them to, you know, the black women, they willingly abort their children. Now they willingly going, it's not, at one time black women said, no, I'm having this child. You know, the sad truth is a lot of the women in our community, the average woman has had 2 or 3 abortions. I know that over the age of, if they're in their 40s, they have had average 2 or 3 abortions. That's just the truth. And that's a fair number. I probably could go high. Go ahead.
That ain't counting Plan B's.
Plan B.
Plan B's.
What's that?
Plan B.
Yeah, that's right. The Plan Bs, all that. Man, isn't it funny, the Plan Bs. What's a shameless woman counted as?
B. B.
There you go. Plan B, go ahead.
Yeah, you know what, Priest is absolutely correct in what he's saying. You notice how, like now when you look at the like family portraits, you ever notice the man isn't there no more? That's right. You ever notice that? The man ain't there no more. You know, you have a woman with about 3 of her sons and about 3 of her daughters. The man isn't there no more. But back when we was coming up, 70s, you know, my dad was in my family photo. Right. You know what I'm saying? And when you went inside somebody's house, your friend's house that lived next door, they always had a family portrait up on the wall. Their dad was right in that portrait. Right. You don't see that no more.
Right.
You notice that?
Right.
Every woman that take a picture now of their kids, where the man at?
Let me tell you, them old school women used to know old Joe was sliding around. Used to know it. And said, you know what, we're keeping this family together. And a lot of times, I know this is a little side note, but for a lot of these men, one of the worst things you can have is a woman, and you ain't gonna do right, and a woman that has a relationship with the Most High, oh, you finished. You finished.
Right.
The Most High will deal with you in way, because Joe done got killed on the tractor.
Right.
For doing stuff wrong. But our women were the core and really the fiber that kept us together. You see what I'm saying? So now, what we see the same parallel over here, where they're trying to separate that Israelite family. Right. All right? So when we see the population, they were afraid of that population growth. The population of the descendants, not to mention that we had male sons at a higher rate than other nations. All right? The population of the descendants of the slaves in the Western Hemisphere countries in 1950 was 48 million. All right? The biggest success story in sheer numbers among the Hebrew communities of the New World was in the U.S. when the legal slave trade with Africa ended in 1808. There were about 1 million Israelites in North America. When chattel slavery ended in 1865, there was about 4.5 million, a 3.5 million population increase. They didn't want this. In 1950, there were 15 million, and in 1990, there were at least 30 to 35 million Hebrews here, Israelites. A 24.5 to 29 million population increase in 125 years. Do you think that and you want to trust jabs? What do you think they're trying to do? What do they call it? SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, increased in our community. That's why we got to go back to midwives. We got to go back to our community doing that. Right. These birthing stools and making sure that every Israelite life gets to come through the matrix.
That's right.
We got to start it because they are systematically doing this. It's nothing new under the sun. Get rid of all the males. Everything that comes through the matrix, we want it dead.
Yeah. Now Esau got a law now that a woman can have an abortion up to 9 months.
Look, you don't up to 9 months.
Oh, man.
You see what I'm saying? 9 months. So this population growth was not the result to any significant degree of slave breeding by the masses, because the majority of slaves brought to the West were brought mainly to other Western, or what we consider Latin American countries. We know that, like Brazil and places like that. We know that history. North America didn't receive a minority of the slaves brought to this hemisphere. The Israelites' population is the result of natural growth. We were just more fruitful. Our women were more fertile. Why do you think these other nations want to take on the black woman? They ain't having sons with their Edomite counterparts. Betty Lou is jacked up. All right? To be considered African American, so-called, mean you are a descendant of the slaves that were brought to North America. Everybody knows that. Right. You know, that's common knowledge. The American government has always been fearful of us joining unto one of its enemies and coming against them. During the Revolution War, the government thought our people would join forces with the British. They thought that we were going to join forces. It kind of makes sense, don't it? Right. That they would think that way. They always felt a feared Israelite retribution. That's why they called the Israelites a terrorist group when we on the corner teaching the Bible. All right? They thought we would join forces with the indigenous. All right? They thought we would join forces with the communists, and so on and so on. All right? This is why the government is fearful today of any kind of pro-black movement. And that's why they got to demonize it. That's why they got to put, we on CNN. We on CNN. The Israelite people we know. Right. On CNN. And then they talking about that fringe group. That fringe group did that. And now you got our own people singing the same tune. Isn't it a damn shame? Right. Isn't it a damn shame? I can't wait till the traitors get their just due, man. Right. I can't wait. All praise. They believe, just as Pharaoh did, that we will rise up, join one of their enemies, and come against them. The government has been fearful of this during slavery, and is even to this day. That's why they pacify y'all. That's why they try to give you a gift and keep saying, but doing something different. We all the same. All right. You notice the commercials are changing. They all mix everything. They try to mix up everything. Gingerfying everything. They putting that ginger on everything. I put that on everything. Right. All right. Egypt. Give me Exodus 1, 11 and 14. Exodus 11, 1 and 14. You see the importance of keeping our seed pure? You see the importance of it?
I was even gonna say, every TV show that you watch now, either it's a black woman that's gay,
Yep.
and she either dating another black woman, or she dating a white woman.
Yep.
It's the same with the men.
It's the same with the
You know
men.
what I'm saying? So,
That's the same thing, to bring our numbers low.
I was gonna say, again, you never see in a movie or a TV show now, two white women. You don't see that.
No.
It's always a black woman.
We have always been used as the poster child for immorality because we are supposed to be the salt
Come.
of the earth.
That's right.
Yeah, that new movie called Externals, they got the black guy and the gay guy. He the only one, and he with another black guy.
You're not tolerated in America if you are a so-called black male, or just a black man. If you're a black man, everything that has to do with masculinity and being a male, you're not tolerated in America. Come on, I see the hands going up. It's good. Go ahead.
Sorry, last night on Linwood, we saw Jake dressed up in high heels.
Oh my God.
On the hands of Esau.
You see that?
Yeah, basically. He was dressed up as a woman himself.
Acceptance. That's all it is. We're still seeking acceptance, and the white man is telling you that you can only be accepted as long as your masculinity is gone. But guess what? He's telling the black woman, you can be the man. Man, isn't that a dirty trick? Go ahead.
I was just to land back on what y'all said. The movie Eternal is it's supposed to be the first people that was created on Earth, and they live forever.
Dang.
And the only external is only one black guy. He's supposed to be the first black guy created, and he was a homosexual.
Well, in that, think about it. You said that internal, right, live forever. The external, temporary, right? He was the only external, and he was gay. That lines up with Leviticus
Come.
20. He gonna be put to death. He ain't gonna be eternal.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So Egyptians put hard bondage on the Israelites. They put taskmasters over them in the field. So we're going to see the same thing happen over here. Exodus 1, 11 and 14.
Come. It says, therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens.
To do what?
Afflict them with their burdens.
Come on, unjust wages. All right. Again, working sun up, sundown. It's still gonna, you working, you doing the job, they bringing somebody else in, you have to teach them, now they get your position and they get more pay. You working along somebody that don't know as much as you, and he's saying, yeah, I make twice as much as you. Huh? You just got here, I've been here for 30 years.
Let's say you overqualified.
Overqualified? How's somebody overqualified? We always been overqualified for
That's
people
right.
that's beneath you.
Come.
All right? We always been overqualified. Read.
Come. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied.
The more they what?
They multiplied.
And you notice they tried to do that with us, even afflicted us with Planned Parenthood, crack epidemic, and now with this. They try, but the more they do, we were always able to come out of it because of the Most High and because of what He promised Israel, what He promised Joseph, what Israel promised Joseph, and what would befall His people. Go ahead.
Yes, Salakia, when you look at the 80s and 90s, a lot of those children that was going through that crack epidemic, Jake was surviving through that.
That's
Them
right.
crack babies grew up, and then they went to high school with them, and you went to college with them.
That's right.
Some of them Edomite children, they didn't make it through that epidemic.
They didn't make it, and they're not making it through how the tables have turned, the meth.
The meth,
Epidemic. They're not making it through
The
that.
kids not making it.
They're not making it. The opioid
Right.
epidemic.
Yeah.
So they got to do something to balance this out. We see through ancient Egyptian artifacts where the taskmasters are beating the slaves. And we got pictures of that happening over here.
Yeah.
Nothing new under the sun. The Hebrews spent over 400, which we know, the 430, dealing with Egypt, and half of that being split. But give me Exodus 12 and 40. What were you going to say?
Oh, yeah, how they keep afflicting us, like how they, you know, like in the 70s with the heroin, in the 80s, crack. So the crack cancer that they doing now, they figure that they can't get the young boys because they do any kind of drug. So they just put the guns in.
Right.
They do the
They
gun.
ain't gonna kill them.
That's right.
That got to kill them.
They always are gonna attack the children.
Come.
That's always been the attack. Let's get them before, and that's why I'm very fearful about the jab concerning our children, because now they're pushing it on the little ones. They're pushing it on the little ones now. You know, my sister, she told me that, you know, she obviously not the truth, but she told me that they told her daughter, she took it, she's in school, she can't be over 15 years old. She took it, and somebody around them had contracted, but they said, you know, 5 days, she only got to stay out 5 days. But we're proving that the increases are coming with people that have taken the jab. So what sense does this make? And then the strands are constantly changing. You got different variants, and now they're talking about, I don't mean to laugh, but man, how dumb can a group of people be? Now they're talking about a pan jab, one that that'll cover all the variants. Man, why you do that in the first place? You're talking about why you, what? You think I'm Bobo? The stuff they telling us, King Yashu, is ridiculous. And the stuff, man, the chemtrails, the air, and people believe in this stuff, man.
Yeah, Israel just dropped another vaccine. Said already 500,000 already took it. You dropping vaccines. You so smart. You dropping vaccines and you reacting to variants that are changing, but you couldn't just deal with it in the beginning. It just lets you know, man, that this is something else. That this is totally something else. So we spent hundreds and hundreds of years in America as slaves. We were first brought to the hemisphere in the 1500s. Slaves were in North America as early as 1521. So we were here early, before the 1600s, which, you know, slaves were first brought to the English colony of West Virginia in 1619. But other colonies, such as the Spanish, already, not West Virginia, Salaki, I believe it was the Virgin Islands, in 1619. No, it was West Virginia, it was Virginia. Jamestown, 1619. But other colonies, such as the Spanish, already had slaves here. So according to many scholars and even Egyptologists, the Israelites were more than likely free from bondage under the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II, son of Seti I. All right, that's which we know it wasn't total freedom, but where they called it deliverance. The Israelites in America, here's the parallels, were freed from chattel slavery under President Lincoln. Neither Lincoln or Ramses wanted to free the Israelites. And this is a known fact. Pharaoh Ramses made it known, and read this in what he says in Exodus 14:5, and then we're going to read what that damn Lincoln said.
All right, this is Exodus chapter 14, 12 and 40, you said?
Yeah, read that.
This is Exodus 12 and 40. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years.
Yeah, just proving the time frame. Go to Exodus 14:5.
Exodus 14 and the 5th verse. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this? That we have let Israel go from serving us.
Why did we that's why you think they don't want to let us go. Why every movement that we've tried to make to return back to Africa, the Marcus Garvey movement, any movement that we try to make, they make it hard. Everything that they do, you think it may have to do with who we are and why they don't want us to travel, passports, Social Security. Could have to do with just Israel. Everything got to do with you. It's all about the Most High's people. Every move they make, it was a song. Every move they make, every move you take. That's what they do, man. I'll be watching you. They watching us.
God.
They watching us. They want to see because they don't want to let us go. We are their cash cow. We've always been. And when we leave, that's why the Revelations 18:4, when we come out, it's over with.
God.
The Most High is free and clear to drop the bomb.
That's right.
Who has something? Go ahead, Joshua.
I was just gonna say, we was talking about the jab, right? When we left Egypt, we left like in a military formation.
That's right.
They're trying to diminish the army of the Lord.
There you go. Take the king, make us weak and feeble. You see what I'm saying? And mentally, it's already, that definitive line is being drawn because people that are leaning on the side, it's already showing their weak nature. They're not trusting the Most High. All right.
Yeah, he's absolutely correct. When the Israelites left Egypt, Egypt fell. I said Egypt was never the same again after that. Just imagine how New Orleans is every night. That's how Egypt was when the Israelites was in there. Okay, that's how Egypt was. The city of Cairo, where the Israelites, when you do the research on the city of Cairo, that's where the Israelites lived at, projects and everything. All right, Egypt was never the same after Israel left. That's why you got people that go over there today. They taking pictures of the pyramids that the Israelites built. You know, they taking pictures and relics of when we were over there. Nobody going to Egypt. Egypt ain't no thriving community no more. The Israelites left. That was it. If Egypt is the pinnacle and the be all, how come it's dead as hell over there now, man? Because the Israelites ain't over there no more.
That's right.
Conscious people can say what the hell they want to say. Egypt is dead. The only thing over there is a bunch of sand and a bunch of pyramids that have been rebuilt, okay, and retouched up. That's it.
That's right. Why do you think they call America the greatest country? Why it's always the great? Every country that was deemed the greatest country, one common denominator: the Israelites are there.
That's right.
And they're the ones that built it.
God.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, but to go along with Elder Squan, all you see over there now is the people that call themselves Egyptian, it's just Edomites, man.
That's
They're
right.
not real Egyptians. They done left too.
Right, the prophecy, if you read the book of Ezekiel 29, it tell you exactly what would happen to Egypt. And it is, they be a base kingdom. And that's exactly what they are.
That's right.
That's why none of these prophecies going to fail. Go ahead, Yahshua.
Jeremiah 50:33.
Bring it up.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together.
That's right.
And all they that took them captive held them fast. They refused to let them go.
They did what?
They refused to let them go.
And that's what Pharaoh, perfect scripture. Pharaoh did not want to let them go. And guess who else? We're going to see a parallel over here in Egypt. Lincoln never wanted to let us go. We're going to read one of that dirty devil's quotes. All right? So Lincoln made it known he didn't want to free the slaves by his statement. And I quote, "If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it." That's what he said. He didn't want to let nobody go.
That's why they gave you Juneteenth.
That's why they gave you Juneteenth. That's right. They okay with you being here. They okay with you shopping at Walmart. They okay with you celebrating Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's. They okay with you taking the jab. They okay with all that. But they're not okay with indemnifying you. They're not okay with acknowledging who you are and releasing you. That's why I said no man shall redeem us. No. Both Lincoln and Ramses are known as the greatest leaders of their country. When you talk about America, they talk about Lincoln like they do Ramses in Egypt. United States and ancient Egypt. Ramses is best known as Ramses the Great. Many historians call Lincoln the greatest U.S. president ever. Now, if you even look at the memorial, you got memorial statues of Pharaoh, Ramses II, and he's sitting like this. Guess what? You got the Lincoln Memorial doing the same thing. It's like they both sitting up there in that same way. The Hebrews built treasure cities for Pharaoh, such as Ramses and Pithom. Give me Exodus 1:11. And we're going to see who built the treasure cities over here? We did. So these are other aspects and more evidence to who we are. And that's why I wanted to bring it out today so that we could, make sure these things are known when we go out here and teach, man. It's too much evidence. It's too much evidence. Deuteronomy 28 and 68 is all fine and well, but we got a lot more than that. We got a lot more than Deuteronomy 28 in terms of identifying who we are. Read Exodus 1 and 11.
Exodus 1 and 11. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities.
Built what?
Treasure cities.
Built treasure cities, like treasure troves, making them money. That's why Pharaoh didn't want to let us go, the Israelites go. That's what people want to say. Yeah, the Most High hardened his heart, but his heart was his mind. And the wicked kings of these nations, you don't know that the Most High is hardening their minds? Yeah, right. They're doing what they're doing because the Most High is doing it because he loves us and he wants us to come out.
Right.
And our people talking about, no, I ain't no Israelite. That don't identify with me. I'm an American.
Right.
Huh? What? Man, Hebrews built many of the cities in the U.S., but we also built their treasure city. Number one called Washington, D.C., the capital. In a recent Associated Press article, this was revealed. Here's a portion of the story. I'm going to read this real quick. Washington. It's AP. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's some type of post. Associated Press. Some workers who helped build the White House and Capitol, two national landmarks of democracy and freedom. Notice we were building statues and buildings that signified freedom when we ourselves weren't free. All right? So some workers who helped build the White House and Capitol, the Capitol that they stormed up there, two national landmarks of democracy and freedom, weren't free at all. They were slaves. And a local television station reported Thursday that it has obtained the pay slips to prove it. Historians have known for years that local property owners loaned slaves to help build the president's residence. This is a known fact. How often is that brought up? Every time they have any memorial, any type of President's Day, anything to do with the White House, anything to do with America, how often is that brought up? They give you Juneteenth. Thursday, Salakia. Historians have known for years that the local property owners loaned slaves to help build the president's residence and the meeting house of Congress, but details of their work have laid in archives and libraries for generations. On Thursday, WRC-TV, an NBC-owned station in Washington, reported that it had obtained actual pay statements found in Treasury Department papers at the National Archives. The station reported that the two building projects employed 650 people over 8 years, including 400 slaves and more than 50 free blacks. The slaves earned $5 a month, which was given to slave owners. You talk about slave wages. It was given to slave owners who hired them out, the station reported. This is still going on today. Us locked up in prison houses, what do you think we building? And more plantations. We're building more plantations for us. So that's what the prison house is. As was stated at the beginning, okay, so that's it on that. But that's why there are parallels between both captivities, and so hopefully, that's it I'm gonna bring out on that. Hopefully we'll see and be able to articulate even more, and there's much more than that. But as it relates to, our captivity, I wanted to bring this out lastly. This is just a little bit of the Torah portion and kind of where we need to find ourselves today in the scheme of all this, now that we know all this. And I want to go to the book of 1 Kings. Let's see. Because I think the Torah portion was 1 Kings 2, chapters 1 through 12. And obviously we're not going to go through all of that. I just want to bring out a little bit and look at the character even of Solomon. And we could take a lesson from this. You know, people bring this out a lot, but Solomon's character is definitely something to learn from. All right. So, you know, chapter 2 talks about, for time's sake, I'm just kind of brief it, the instruction that was given to Solomon from David. And this is what he said in verse 1. Now the days of David, chapter 2, verse 1, I'm going to read it. Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man. And so this is prolific for us as Israel, so that now that we know that we're Israel, our responsibility as men and what the Most High requires of us. This was a wonderful example. 1:3. This is what King David said. This is what David told his son. This is what we should be telling our sons. This is what we should be telling the generation after us. He told us in verse 3, and keep the charge of Yahweh, thy power, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law. This should never change. This should never change, as it is written in the law. We know YHWH reiterated this, all right? Of Moses, because we're having a problem now. People are trying to differentiate between the law of Christ and then the law of Moses, as though they're two different things. Right. And we know that they're not. All throughout the New Testament, you can find the law of God. All right, who is that? Is that the law of Christ? Or is that still the law of Moses? You know, again, another teacher for another time. But Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all thou doest. So King David told Solomon to listen to the law of Moses so that you can prosper in all thy doing. YHWH said, every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Most High. Did the Most High prescribe the law of Moses? Did it come from his mouth? Of course. And whithersoever thou turnest thyself, that Yahweh, verse 4, may continue his word. So the fact that the Most High is discontinued with us is because we're not continuing in his word. All right, beloved? So this is what we need to make sure that we're doing. Which he spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth, which we know the truth being the law, with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee. You know how powerful that is, that we won't fail. That you won't fail, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. So Israel would be in rulership. There would never fail a man to rule and to be authority, and that's rulership in the earth. All right? So we need to say, if we want rulership, we need to take heed to that. Let's go to verse 9 real quick. Now therefore hold him not guiltless, for thou art a wise man, and knowest what thou oughtest to do unto him. But his hoar head bring thou down to the grave with blood. So there were even instructions that were being given to Solomon to destroy men that opposed him and the authority of the Most High, and the authority that was given to him by King David. And this was within our own ranks. He's going taking people out. You know, so how much more us needing to separate from certain people? That's what you need to get from this. When men prove themselves not to be of the persuasion of building a temple unto the Most High, of setting up his righteous order, of promoting laws, statutes, and commandments, these are men that you need to separate from. Men that are not down with the spiritual protocol that emphasis is being placed on in these scriptures. Men that want to do stuff their way. These are men that men like David and Solomon killed. All right? These are the ones that the priests came and took heads off. All right? That's right. So let's go to 1 Kings, verse 40, chapter 2 still. I'm going to read 43. Why then hast thou not kept the oath of Yahweh and the commandment that I have charged thee with? The king said moreover to Shemiel, thou knowest all the wickedness which thine heart is privy to, that thou didst to David my father. This is one of these men that he was like, look, man, why didn't you do this? And we need to ask ourselves that question. Why then hast thou not kept the oath of Yahweh? What is the oath of Yahweh? The promise he made to us, to those that keep his laws. And you need to ask yourself, am I doing that? Because it's going to be off with your head. And the commandment that I have charged thee with. Give me Ron, Ezekiel 17 and 19 real quick.
Come.
And I'm almost finished. Not going to be long. Not going to be much longer. We got the place till 3, so we'll have some time.
Ezekiel 17 and 19. Therefore thus saith Yahweh thy power, as I live, surely mine oath that he hath despised, and my covenant that he hath broken, even it will I recompense upon his own head.
Ooh. It just would behoove you to do what the Most High asked you to do.
Right.
It's gonna be favorable to you. And he reiterates that. He told it'll go well with you for thy good. Right? So the things that we know to do, we got to start doing them, man. Or the Most High gonna pay. It ain't about what men can do to you. All right? The king said, I'm in verse 44, the king said moreover to Shemiel, thou knowest all the wickedness which thine heart is privy to, that thou didst to David my father. Therefore Yahweh shall return thy wickedness upon thine own head. And King Solomon shall be blessed, and the throne of David shall be established before Yahweh forever. So the king commanded Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, which went out and fell upon him, that he died. And the kingdom was established in the hand of Solomon. You see that? The kingdom, certain men gonna have to get away for the kingdom to be established. Right. That's just the way that story ends. I'm gonna go to we're in chapter 3, and read verse 1 to 3 real quick. And Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter, and brought her into the city of David, until he had made an end of building his own house and the house of Yahweh, and the wall of Jerusalem round about. 2, only the people sacrificed in high places, because there was no house built unto the name of Yahweh until those days. Verse 3, and Solomon loved Yahweh, walking in his statutes of David, his father. Only he sacrificed and burnt incense into high places. So we see here where Solomon at one time, he did possess a righteous character. You know, he loved Yahweh. Verse 5, in Gibeon, Yahweh appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and the Most High said, ask what I shall give thee. And really, when we come to this truth, that's where we find ourselves. You find yourself in that position where the Most High, you have an opportunity to receive from the Most High, because he's called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Light represents things that he wants to illuminate, things that he wants to give you, things that you've never seen before. Night and sleep represent darkness and blindness. All right? But the Most High comes to us in darkness. That's what he did even to Solomon while he was sleeping. You see what I'm saying? It's usually upon our bed that we meditate. I know many of us have been in the bed of affliction, but it's in that place where you meditate and you commune with the Most High. All right? We got to get up from that place, but we got to walk as children of the light, man. You know, not be influenced by our own desires. 6, and Solomon said, thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he has walked before thee in truth and in righteousness. A lot of the reasons why we receive what we're receiving is because of what somebody else did. And we need to remember that. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We need to remember that. And in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him his great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. I'm going to go down to verse 9. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge the people, and I may discern between good and bad. The Most High was going to give Solomon what he asked for. And this is what Solomon asked for. Isn't that heavy? And that's why the Most High is coming to test us, man, to see what you really about. What do you really want? What do you really want in this? You turban wearing something? What do you want? Your long garb having? What do you? Your armband? What do you really want, man? What do you want in this? All right? And thy servant, Salakia, give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. Man,
That's powerful.
discernment is one of the greatest gifts, because discernment, out of all that it can do, it can keep you in relationship with the Most High. That's what you want, all right? To know whether, should I be over here? Because that seemed to be a problem in Israel. Should I be over there? Should I do this? Should I do that? Because a lot of our ways, since we've been in this, have been crooked. Because we ain't got no discernment. We got to backtrack. Now we got to clean up. Now we got to fix stuff. You see what I'm saying? Had we just asked for discernment, man, oh, how straight and narrow would the straight and narrow be? All right? For who is able to judge this, thy so great people? And the speech pleased Yahweh. Man, that's what we want, our words to please the Most High. Not man please ours.
Right.
We don't want to please men. Our speech don't need to please me. I'm not teaching so you can tell me, man, you talk good, man. I don't want to teach good. I want to teach right. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of brothers are out here so that they can